All right. Hey, Angelica, how are you?
I'm good. It's nice to see you, Omonike.
Yeah, you too. Oh my gosh. It's been like a couple of years, right?
I know. I know, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like I just saw you.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
feel like I just saw you too. Like, can you tell us, like, how did we meet again?
Yeah, so there was an ad on Dance NYC that you posted, and I saw that Miss Yvonne, which was our flamenco teacher from Ballet Hispanico, was also included. And at the time, I was doing a lot of dancing, like contemporary dance companies, and I've always wanted to, I don't know, explore flamenco beyond Ballet Hispanico's borders. And I saw that there was an opportunity, and I saw that the project was very much in line with a lot of the stuff I'm interested with. So I went
Mhm.
ahead and auditioned. And I remember the audition was at Abrams Art Center, which was, I think, the Lower East Side.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it just kind of, I just felt like all the right people were kind of connected, and it kind of just like aligned in that way.
Yeah, it really was about that alignment. We had the good fortune, I remember at that time, of having a little grant from the New York State Choreographic Initiative,
Yeah.
which helped us just sort of develop what we were looking for. And I remember doing like a lot of experimentation, like when we were in rehearsal at Flamenco Vivo.
Yeah.
And yeah, that process was just very rich for me. Can you tell me a little bit, how did you feel in that? I have so many things to ask you, but how did you feel it in that process? And I'm also going to show you a clip from the film where you're in it
Oh
and
my
ask you what
gosh.
you were thinking at that very moment when you're in
Okay.
it. Okay.
Um, so yeah, Flamenco View was cool because like I feel like every different studio in New York has their vibe. And Flamenco Vivo is very much like a flamenco studio, which to me had more of like a theater kind of vibe to it. But then you walk in and like the floors are all kind of scratched up, obviously because of like the nails. And I don't know, you could just feel that there's been like so many people like really like digging into the floor. You kind of feel it. It was cool. It was a different space. Um, I liked Flamenco Vivo because also that's where I met the other
Mm.
cast members or the dancers.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and like Dwayne, and Jose. Am I remember?
Jose, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that was really cool.
Mhm.
And yeah, I remember the experimentation. I remember, maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but there was a walking pattern that we had to do.
Mm.
Or there was some sort of there was one that was really fun. But yeah, Flamenco Vivo was cool. And it's
Yeah.
part of New York. It was in
Yeah.
42nd Street. Yeah.
If I remember right, we did a lot of like marking steps, like makahe, but
Yes, that's what I remember.
we were we were kind of doing a lot of like alegrias patterns, but also kind of contemporizing it. Let me
Yeah.
see if I can get your memory, like a kind of like we would go with our 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yes,
6,
that's what I
8,
remember. Yeah.
and then we bring like flamenco,
The
but we
arms
also
into it.
kind of be feeling things within that, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I just remember having so much fun and thinking about flamenco differently. And
Hmm.
we both went to Ballet Hispanico, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was also very rich.
Hmm.
But how was what we did different from, like, say, the dances you may have done when you were at BH?
Yeah.
And
I feel like maybe, I don't want to say is this shady or not, but like I love Ballet Hispanico. Obviously, like they have pushed more of like, ballet, modern dance, and contemporary, and there's a whole different aesthetic. And I think with you, Monique, and what I really appreciate, was the blend of African diasporic dances. And I remember you're Nigerian, right? So you brought in of that background into flamenco, but also with the modern dance. And then also your theater, like you went to film school. And I think another thing that was really cool is that at the time, I think right before I auditioned for you, I bought this book about Blondell Cummings, about her dance film work. And at the time, I was already thinking about going to LA. So I think with you and like bringing your film aesthetic into dance was really what made it different. On top of your way of and your approach with flamenco, your approach with modern dance, your approach with dance in general across the board is really unique. And I think that's what makes it stand out. Also, because the way that you grew up, right? You said you grew up in like around where BH was or more uptown.
Uptown. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had those influences. So yeah, I think it was just kind of a combination of like all of your experiences. Like, yeah, we both went to BH, so there is that landing, but also we had different experiences. You were in a different generation of students, and maybe you had a little bit different teachers where I had a teacher. I remember also you did the New York Public Library exhibition of the teacher who taught at Ballet Hispanico, modern dancer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thank you so much. That was Manuel Alum, who was one of my teachers at BH, and his choreographic aesthetic really affected me a lot. I remember him, teaching us Night Bloom. At the time, I didn't know it was one of his previous pieces, but it started on the floor. And I was like, wow, for us just to be cycling our legs on the floor was just such a rich experience. And it started making me think that you can really do anything in theater.
yeah.
And I'm going to play a moment from your part in Sketches.
Sure.
And if you just hold on a minute, I need to play it from the other screen, which I have on my other computer.
No worries.
And hopefully the music won't be too loud. I might need to do something to that. Okay. We got Sketches coming up. Allow screen share. All right. So it's coming up. This is the end of the scene where my character, Circe, she goes to Spain. And there at the Alhambra, she feels like she sees the ancestors dancing in the walls. So now's your piece, the Tangos. Can you hear everything okay, Angelica?
For some reason, I can't hear the volume, but I could see.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll just talk about the visuals.
No
So
worries.
this part is very kind of trippy. Koi Ren is the visual effects artist who helped me with this. And we're sort of going into this zone. And then we see you guys in the streets of New York. Jose crosses paths with Dwayne, being Dwayne, and Alicia. And there you are. It looks like you're kind of ignoring him. But I love that you guys did that because it felt very like, you know how you ignore somebody? You're like, oh, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
When he goes in, we had Orisa Gutierrez, brilliant dancer, also Yvonne Gutierrez's daughter.
That's her baby.
And I just remember feeling that this was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. A lot of fun.
And you're coming up in a
corner.
minute. Yeah. So Dwayne and Orisa are talking flamenco style. And I think he's kind of like a villain. Yeah, Jose's a villain. He's coming in with like flamenco fierceness. And he's singing. I don't know if you can hear him. And I feel like I shouldn't show all of this, but I just want to show this moment with you where you get up. Yeah. And you just start like, you're like, what? There you go. Okay. So you're like, okay, what's going on? And I want to show a little bit of what happens outside. But we don't want to show too much because we want people to come see the show. But okay, you start doing a little bit of flamenco. And okay, this all happens in a kind of groovy way. Okay, I love how you're pulling through. And everybody's going to be going through this space. So, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to pause this video. All right. Okay, video pause. And I'm going to X out of that. Maybe we'll hear each other a little better. Yay, Angelica. Yeah, that. So tell me a little bit about what you were thinking, like when you were doing that, because I'm totally not privy to that. But what were you thinking when you were?
Yeah, I was thinking. I mean, I remember like what you were saying was like basically kind of interact with whatever Odisa and Jose was doing. And then Dwayne was there. And then, but then also we were in this cafe that was like being used as normal, which is great. And there was obviously, I didn't even see that there was an ambulance. So it was like, is that person okay? We're having a film. But just a joke. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I was kind of like, well, I'm just going to act like my regular New York self, where I'm going to be like kind of giving people this look, or I guess I have my New York look face, and I'm just going to do flamenco while I do it, while I try to figure out if Jose is okay and kind of take his lead, because he seems like the person to like charge into the space, to the cafe, and everybody took notice. So I'm going to like see what's going on here. But yeah, I think for me, it was just honestly just being like my regular New York self.
Yeah.
Face and just being me, and I'm glad that showed through very much.
Yeah. I love kind of, blending this sort of my regular self with flamenco. And I think there's sort of why I'm calling this show that we're doing Sketches from the Edge of Flamenco is because like there's this edge of flamenco where it's like, okay, this is flamenco, people are da 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 da. But then there's this edge which is like life itself happening, and I kind of like skirting between those two worlds and kind of discovering like who is a character. I just love how you guys embodied that so well. And when I showed this piece in Albuquerque at the symposium, the biennial symposium on flamenco, people were like, we didn't know there were that many people doing flamenco in New York. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, there are a lot. And, I'm excited, especially to continue this legacy of Ballet Hispanico, outside of Ballet Hispanico, that we continue to do flamenco and kind of grow with it,
Grow with it. Add more stuff to the paella,
Exactly. Yeah. So now can you tell us more what you are doing now? You have always been posting some awesome images. What are you up to now as a dancer, choreographer yourself?
Guess what? I want to follow Omonike's footsteps. I want to do dance film. So yeah, in New York, like basically what's happening, especially after the pandemic, so many spaces closed down, so many things were happening. And, I got this degree from California. So I've always felt pulled between both coasts. And yeah, what made me move to California was like, I feel like I did a lot of dancing in New York with different companies, different projects, different people. And I just wanted to expand my wings. So I landed here. The first year in LA was rough because of the fires. I was teaching in Altadena. and 80% of the students that I taught were affected, unfortunately. So Lee has had a kind of tough year. So it's been about like 2 years now. I'd say the first year doesn't count because it was me acclimating here. And it took a while to do that. And I miss my New York community a lot. But I think it also has to do with the age that I was in. I think when I met you, I was like maybe 28, 27. Now I'm 30. And I think, especially as a dancer nowadays, when you start approaching 30, sometimes these things get fuzzy. You start questioning, why am I still practicing my art? Why am I still dancing? Especially when these things like, you know, the fires happen and, you know, the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic with the shutdowns and everything that's going on. So I think I started asking, like, yeah, do I still want to do my artistic practice? And it took that whole year to ask that question. And I think I finally come to the conclusion that, yes, I still want to dance. However, I like the joys of filmmaking and experimentation that I learned from Omonike, that I learned from my dance on camera professor, Francesca Pinzani. And also just being in proximity to Los Angeles, to so many different theaters and seeing film. And not for nothing, like film really took off, at least for dance during the pandemic, because that's what we had. So I think my personal experiences with what was going on in the world, my desire for still wanting to explore different techniques, right? That we both have ballet, the modern dance, the African diasporic dances. Like in my case, I studied a lot of Ghanaian dancing and CalArts. And then also the histories and seeing the connection, that was a big part of it too, because I remember there were Moors in yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. History, the Moors, all of that is so interesting.
Right.
For me, it's like almost a natural progression too from our training at BH.
Right.
Because now I'm realizing that it was all of that. It was like the flamenco, the grand modern dance, a little bit of Dunham technique, ballet, that kind of informs the filmmaking and vice versa. So I'm definitely, I'm so excited that you are continuing, that you're doing what you're doing, that you're mixing as well, developing your own dance films. And I just want you, well, come back to New York eventually to visit.
I definitely want to. Definitely. I think I'm trying to figure out how many times that I could realistically go, but also like, yeah, I miss my people. And I think the one thing about New York is that I had such a strong community and I had such a strong connection, where here in LA, I'm kind of, you know, everything is separate. The city, the way that's built is like really far apart. So I feel like, you know, people are less likely. They're like, well, I have to drive all the way across town to come see. Or my people in New York, at least for me speaking, they're like, okay, I'll take the train over, because that's what I do. But you know what? I'm still adjusting here. But yeah, I can't wait to see what 2026 brings. So
yeah. May I ask, what subjects do you feel passionate about that you might want to make movies or dance pieces or projects
yeah,
about?
I'm so glad that you asked, because I did start writing on a proposal. This idea started like a year ago, and then now it's being added through research. So part of my experiences moving from New York to LA was public transit. And you know, I'm from New York City, so I relied on that. And then I did try to get my license, but my grandparents were very afraid for me to even practice, and then hence why I failed the test, because I couldn't get a lot of chance to practice. And so, like, you know, being in LA, seeing the different attitudes towards public transit, and then especially for, you know, through my research, I saw, I didn't need to research this. First of all, I lived this. But as a person of color, woman of color, how they like wasting your time. And I actually did sociological research on this. Because, you know, Metro LA did a lot of case studies. It's called Changing Lanes, if I'm not I hope I'm correct in that. But anyways, long before I did that research, my friend who was attending UCLA urban planning was talking about, there was this one case, it's called La Sombrita. And basically it was like what they did, say they took this pole, right? And they built like just like a skateboard type thing here. And that was supposed to provide enough shade in Los Angeles for people waiting on the bus. And I don't know if you know, LA can get really hot.
Mhm.
And, you know, because I hate to say this, like Los Angeles and the homeless situation, a lot of people, they'd rather take away bus benches and furniture and have people stand in the sun because we don't want to attract homeless people, which is sad, you know, that we have this situation. But there's a lot of old people and there's a lot of women of color who really rely on this transit. And, you know, another thing about Los Sombrita was about, I think, like, yeah, just providing shade and like protection at night, because like it can get really dark as well in certain areas. So, but like it's crazy how I think, from what I remember, they spent like a lot of money on a big research team to go to like different countries and study their public transit and how they handle it. Where I'm like, I feel like you could have just walked up to anybody in these neighborhoods that rely on public transit and just asked them, like, hey, how can we make this better? How can we make this work better? So my idea, you know, of course, I want to incorporate dance and movement, because movement, public transportation, transporting the bodies, you know, about like different bus stops in LA and then different bus stops in New York. And I also wanted to bring a personal element to it, the bus stops that I experienced in Colombia and Cartagena. And, you know, maybe even Puerto Rico. Like I had no idea that Puerto Rico had a train system going around the island. I had no idea until I actually looked into it. And I don't know, like it's very interesting because through conversation, I also teach at the Hollywood YMCA. I was talking about like why, you know, why cars are such a big thing in LA. And then you have to look into the history of LA. But then you also see that there used to be these rapid, it's called the Redbirds, I think. They used to be really rapid. So I don't know, all of this really interests me because I feel like it brings in such a layered conversation of like being a woman of color in a city like this. It brings into public transit. It brings into, and I like the La Sombrita because my idea was like sombra's shade. So I wanted to like throw shade at that project. Like I was trying to be really throwing shade, but also shedding light. So there's also that kind of aspect that I wanted to bring into it. Obviously, I'm very much in first draft mode.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds so powerful. You know, transportation is huge.
Yeah.
And yes, about like how we are using it and being at the bus stop and, you know, all of that. I totally see it. Yeah. Um, I would love for you to, you know, keep going with that project. And something I wanted to just share with people is that this place that I'm sort of, you know, creating in New York at Rodney's Comedy Club, I'm calling it the 16 calories space because 16 calories in Yoruba culture that I'm from in Nigeria is a form of divination, of telling the future. It's a form of creating space using cowrie shells, and it tells you what is going to happen. And it's often used by women. So I often felt there's got to be something to that, that you can create space with these cowrie shells wherever you are. So that's what I want this place, Rodney's, to be, the 16 calories space at Rodney's, a place where people like Angelica can show their work, and me, obviously, showing my work this year. But, you know, wouldn't it be great if we really create our space within that little venue in New York City and use it and use it and use it? So, Angelica, I totally invite you to come back to New York City and show your work. Um, either at Image Quilt in Albany, which you've been to. We've gone through lots of renovations.
Yay.
We look a lot better. We have a whole black box theater, and you know, you can show your movie and go out into the courtyard and have some tea. And then if you just want to be, you know, in busy New York City, take your stuff to Rodney's, where they have a beautiful screen, really nice sound, and people can enjoy a cocktail or two if that's what they want to do.
Yay.
Yay. Awesome, Angelica. Thank you so much. I am going to stop our recording now.
Good.
I have to go to manage recording and stop. Thank you.
Yeah.